how are you doing today? My name is Dhruti Patel and welcome to our second session on food preservation, which is going to focus on freezing. We are going to learn 10 freezing tricks you want to know right now that is going to create a very safe, delicious, good quality products. So I hope you're ready. Before I start, let me just introduce myself a little bit. If this is your first time, my name is Dhruti Patel, and I'm a family and consumer sciences educator with the University of Maryland Extension. I do food preservation program every year during spring, summer, and fall time because that's the time we get to have all the beautiful fresh produce from our local farms, from our gardens, and we are looking for ways to purpose them and create a better product and fill up our pantry. More than ever now, we need to fill up our pantries because we do not have as good of a stock in our grocery stores as we are used to. So I'm very excited that I get to actually, even at home, teach and share some of the educational material related to food preservation. Thank you for being here again. I'm very excited. So let me say who all I have here. If you don't mind, can you just hit like if this is your first time here, and heart this if you have already attended my first session or watched it after the live session was broadcasted. I would love to know that. So hit like if this is your first time watching this live session, or hit on the heart if you have already seen my previous Canning Conundrum session. Awesome. Great. Thank you. All right. So let's get started with our really cool presentation. I hope that you get to take something back with you at home and try to practice everything that I'm talking about right now. All right. So before we start about techniques, I think there are some things we need to clarify on, and that is the scientific part of the freezing. Most of us sometimes think about freezing as something that kills bacteria and helps prevent spoilage in our food. However, it could not be a more wrong statement. What freezing does, it halts the growth of the bacteria during freezing period, because bacteria, just like us, do not like freezing temperature as much. So their growth stops right when you start to freeze, and over a period of time you're freezing it. So it doesn't kill bacteria, it just stops the growth. That's a very important thing to remember. The other thing you need to remember is also that when you start thawing food, meaning when you get your food out from the freezer and rest it outside to prep it in whichever fashion you decide to do, that's when, again, the thawing process will actually going to create replication of those bacteria that is already existing in your food too. So that's why it's very, very important to actually practice some of the safe thawing methods, and we are going to talk about that in the later slides on how to do those. But just make sure that you thaw food very safely. All right, so packaging. Packaging is very important because that is going to dictate the quality of the food that stays within your freezer, the safety of your food. You don't want all food to leak through the bags or a container to the other produce and other parts of the food within your freezer, right? So you have to make sure that the containers or bags, whatever you choose to store your food item in, is actually meant for freezing, because those are manufactured to make sure they withstand the such low degree temperatures, right? So I have a certain number of packaging material at home which I can show to you. Some of them are, one of them, actually, there are two categories of those. One of them is non-rigid, which contains all your bags and wraps and vacuum packaging, right? This is one of them. So you always have to make sure it says something like freezer. Okay? If it doesn't say freezer, they are just a regular bag. And so you should not be using that for freezing your food, right? The other item that comes under non-rigid packaging is your freezer wraps, right? Freezer paper. This is especially good for your meat. So pieces of meat or your burgers or filet, they all freeze very well with the freezer wraps. And I'm actually going to show you later on how to wrap your pieces of meat or burgers or whatever that might be using different kinds of wraps. So that will be really good. The other rigid items are mostly the containers. They are actually meant for freezing. They might be plastic or they might be glass. So again, it should tell you that it is meant for freezing. If it does not say that, please do not use those containers or those bags for freezing. Very, very important thing to remember. Okay, so now we move to steps of freezing. Very simple, straightforward, right? We pick a food item that we want to freeze, right? Whether it's fresh or cooked does not matter. We're going to prepare it, meaning you're going to clean it, you're going to trim it, chop it if needed, and you're going to cook it if you're going to decide to cook the item, right? So cleaning is very, very important, and prepping is very important because guess what? Once you are thawing the food and getting ready to add it in your whatever preparation or cooking item, you're not going to clean or you're not going to wash those produce or that item, right? So it's very, very essential to clean it really nicely with a clean water as applicable, right? The third thing is packing. Packing is a method of layering food in your container, or it can also be pre-treat. It can also involve pre-treatment to enhance the quality of your food, may it be by taste, may it by texture while it's freezing, or may it be by size of the crystal that is forming when you're freezing it, right? So all those treatments are going to ensure that your end result during the freezing period of your food is going to last and give you a better quality product. Packing also means portioning, right? If you have a smaller family, you might want to portion your food out rather than packing everything in one container, because guess what? You have to thaw the entire container to get a little bit of portion out of your freezing product, right? So you have to think from your family standpoint. If you are living by yourself, living 2 people, or living 6 or 4 people, how does that look like? How do you want to portion it out, right? So that is also a very important part of packing. Removing air in the container is also very important. That's where your vacuum packaging comes in. But again, it is slightly expensive. It requires a little bit of investment. But if you don't have it, that's completely fine. You can do as good of a job as you can to make sure that there is no airspace or there's not a lot of air within your container, right? You're going to freeze it, of course, and then you're going to thaw it to utilize that product that you just froze, right? So that's one of them. I'm going to take a little bit of break and I'm going to ask where my participants are from. I would love to know that. So if you don't mind, just type in the county you're located in or where you're accessing this live video from and write the state. So for example, I'm in Worcester County right now. So Worcester County, Maryland is what I'm going to write. I love knowing a little bit about where my participants come from. So I would really appreciate if you can just type that and let me know. All right. As you're going to type in and introduce yourself a little bit, I'm going to move to our first trick of freezing, which is labeling. Now, you may say, Dhruti, I know I already do that, but are you doing it correctly? That's very important to know, right? We have to make sure that the product that we are freezing, we are writing the information such as what that product is, how much of a quantity you have there, because sometimes when we are making recipes or even if you are into meal planning, you know exactly how much of portioning you need to do. So if you have 3 pounds of, let's say, chicken breast, right, and you can divide that up by pound, you know exactly how much you need to take out from your container, right? So it's always good to actually add the quantity there. Date of freezing, again, very important, and date of expiration. And you may ask me, how do I know when my food is going to expire? What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually attach one of the very good reliable websites in the description after the live session is done, So you can look through the product list and see how long that product lasts in the freezer. So please make sure you use that and come back to this session. It will be posted on the Facebook, so you can come down anytime and have access to this video. You can also write form of food if you're peculiar like me and you want to know, okay, what it is. Is it like a full strawberry or is it sliced strawberry? So you can pick that up too. If you're using a specific kind of packing method, let's say if you're using strawberries packed in sugar syrup, so you can write that too. Just to make it easy, because our food in the freezer lasts for such a long time and we put so much in our freezers, we sometimes lose track of what do we have there. And so it's always a good idea to write a label. So one of the things I always do, and I have that at home too, is to add this. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see. It says date and comments. So this is a tape. Many times what happens while you're freezing, the writing on the container or the bag fades away. This is meant for, this label is meant for freezer proofed containers and bags. So you can definitely put that on and add all your information that you need to. So that's a very good idea. The other thing that also sometimes they do is they give you this little section on writing your information. So take a Sharpie, you can add the same information right here. Makes it easier, right? Okay. All right, and now we are going to transition to freezing trick 2, tray technique. And I'll be honest with you, this is actually one of my favorite techniques to actually freeze my fruits and vegetables, just because of the fact that it looks very pretty, it's very pourable, and it's very easy to do. So what is tray technique? Basically what you do is that you pick your fruits and vegetables that you're trying to freeze. You're going to prep it, meaning you're going to clean it, trim it, cut it in a uniform size. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take like a baking sheet or something that's flat and that fits in your freezer. You're going to take that baking sheet and you're going to layer your food pieces in a single layer. And what you're going to do after that, you're going to put that tray in the freezer. About like 1 hour, what you'll notice is your pieces are getting tougher and they are freezing well. If you think your pieces are firm enough, they need to be very firm actually. Once they are done, then you take that tray out and then you transfer or pour your product into a container bag of your choosing. So what this is doing is that what happens sometimes when we are freezing food, it clumps up, your fruit pieces clumps up, and it's really hard to thaw them very nicely and use them very nicely. So what tray method does is that it keeps those pieces separated and easy to pour. So if you're a lover of smoothies like me, it just makes your life easy to pour your your smoothie, your fruits or vegetables, whatever you take, and just pour it. It just makes it very, very nice. And also what happens is that the crystals surrounding each of those pieces are going to be much more smaller, and it's not going to cause a lot of what do you call it, like a mushiness when you're thawing that product for and ready to use it. All right, keep your colors bright. This is the third technique, very, very good technique. What you can do is use ascorbic acid. If you're not aware of ascorbic acid, it is also called as vitamin C. Now, don't confuse vitamin C supplement with ascorbic acid that I'm talking about, because the ascorbic acid I'm talking about is actually meant for commercial use, and that is for this use of preventing browning in your fruits. Mostly they are peaches, apples, pears, apricots, anything usually that turns brown, you can use that on that. So where do you buy that? You can buy that at any store which sells like a canning supplies. Your grocery store should have it. Amazon has it. Ball actually makes that product too. So you can look on their website too to find the ascorbic acid. Again, it is not a supplement, so please do not take it as a supplement, vitamin C supplement, because it's not going to do its job. So definitely you can use that. So what you need to do is, first of all, look for powdered ascorbic acid. Very, very important. And what you're going to do is that you're going to dissolve 1 teaspoon of ascorbic acid into 1 gallon of water, right? And then you're going to actually add your or immerse your fruits into that liquid. What's going to happen is that that liquid is going to surround the pieces of your fruit, and it's going to allow for that fruit to stay fresh and not brown like it usually does. And then you drain that water out when you're ready to freeze it, and then you can actually pour the product in your freezer friendly container or bag, whichever you choose. There are other two options too that you can try. However, they are not as effective as your vitamin C or ascorbic acid is, and that is lemon juice and citric acid. Citric acid in general is not as effective in preventing browning, but there's still use of it. If somebody is, let's say, allergic to ascorbic acid supplement or some derivatives present in it, then maybe that's an option. The other is lemon juice. Now, it is a better option than citric acid. However, you also have to understand that lemon juice is acidic. It has that tart flavor in it. So if you were to add that on your apples and pears, they're going to take up that taste. And so they're going to affect you and alter your taste too of those yummy apples and pears and peaches. So that's one thing, that is a negative about using lemon juice. But ascorbic acid, for the most part, is a very good option. Right, freezing trick 4, blanching the produce. Okay, so I want to know this. How many of you have blanched it? Have you used a regular boiling water blanching or steam blanching? I want to know. If you have done both, great. If you have done just steam, then just write steam. If you have done boiling water, then write boiling water. I would love to know that. Oh, that's a good question. Okay. I'm going to come back to your question, Vivian. Just after this slide, I'm going to go through all the questions that we have right now. So just hold on to that for a second. I'm going to get back to you. Boiling water. Okay, great. Okay, so they are mainly, what basically blanching does is it takes away a little a load of microorganisms that is harboring on your inside your food or out on the surface of the food. So what's happening is that it's killing some bacteria in the process of blanching, specifically boiling water blanching, because it's more aggressive of a treatment than steam blanching. It brightens the colors. If you have done blanching, you know how beautiful your greens look after blanching, right? And also helps you to pack more food in your freezer, in the freezer container, right? Mostly because when you're blanching and steaming, your produce is losing some water from it. So you're going to be able to have more concentrated produce to be packed in your container. Right? It shortens the cooking time. So this is also very good because you're already pre-treating it and cooking it a little bit. When you're getting ready to, thaw it and use it for cooking, the produce will cook much more faster than, than in a other sense when the produce is fresh, right? You have to make sure you're draining well after you blanch, no matter if it's a steam blanching or boiling water, especially for boiling water, because you're immersing that food in the boiling water, right? Okay. All right, let me see. So we have a couple of people said that they have tried boiling water. Great. And Erin says she hasn't tried it yet. All right, I hope Erin, I convinced you to try it at home after this presentation. It's really good technique. Now, freezing trick 5, use pectin. Who knew, right? We use pectin for making jellies and jams and yummy, yummy marmalades, right? So pectin, for those of you who are not familiar, pectin is a naturally found compound, chemical compound in your fruits. that compound has a very loving relationship with water. It loves to hold on to those water molecules and make a beautiful gel. Okay, so that's why it creates beautiful jellies and jams. It's very similar to gelatin. However, gelatin comes from the animal source. Pectin comes from the more vegan or vegetarian source, where it comes from fresh produce, right? So you can use this pectin for berries, peaches, rhubarb, cranberries, cherries. Definitely are very good candidates. Those fruits are very good candidates for pectin. As I said before, pectin makes our water unavailable, and what happens is that if there is no water available in the freezer, you're not going to have as big of ice crystals surrounding your product, right? Surrounding the pieces of your product. So it's going to create very minor ice crystals, so which is actually very good. And it's not going to give you a bad mushy product when you're thawing it. So that's very good. So how do you use pectin? You use 1 box of powdered pectin, which is not sweetened. You don't want any sweetened pectin here. And then you're going to take 2 3/4 cups of water. You're going to boil 1 cup of water and that package of pectin together. You're going to let it boil. As soon as it starts to boil, you're going to remove that from the burner, and then you're going to add rest of the water in it. And you're going to let it cool down, let it gel and set a little bit. Once it's completely cold, you're going to pour your fruits in it, and then you're going to mix it nicely. You're going to make sure that it is layering each pieces of fruit very beautifully. So that is how you actually do the pectin method. You can also combine that with syrup too. That works too. I'm going to talk about that later about syrup, but pectin is a very good packing method for fruits. Now there is one caveat to that. If you are, again, I'm going to bring back my smoothie loving side, right? I love my smoothies. I don't need pectin in my smoothies, right? So for those people who need fruit in its intact form and not having any additives to it, for them maybe pectin is not a right option. But if let's say if you're making pie filling, if you're making jellies or jams, this might be a good option for them. So it completely depends on how you're using your product, right? But again, this is a very good option for you to use. All right, so now it's a question time, and I'm going to look through all your questions to make sure I'm answering that, and then we're going to move ahead with our tricks 6 through 10. But before that, I want to know what foods do not freeze well. So type it in the chat box and see. I want to see what you think are the foods that do not freeze well at all. And by that time, as you're typing in, I'm going to go through your questions. Okay, Vivian, you asked about can you use vitamin C tablets if you can't get ascorbic acid? This is a good question. Part of my hesitation with tablets is the other chemical compounds that is added to the vitamin C. Now, the vitamin C that I'm talking about, the fresh produce one, is made with an intent to help you prevent browning. Well, the vitamin C tablets, though, are usually for supplements. And then what that does is that they have other additives, and you don't know how those additives are going to interact with your food item. Mostly it's the fruits, right? So you don't know how those going to be and how they are going to act. The other thing is it might also add a certain taste, a bitterness, or a certain kind of tartness. You don't know how it's going to turn out. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on using tablets. But I assure you, I have seen just yesterday, I saw on Amazon they were selling ascorbic acid. So go ahead and try to find that. You can also find it in Target, and then Walmart. You have it at Food Lion, any canning supply area. Even at the your local farm stores, if they are selling canning related items, most likely they will have that product. It's very widely available product. Potatoes, yes, Karen, you're right. It's potatoes. We have leafy greens and some herbs. Oh, I would have to say no, because if you realize we do freeze spinach and we do freeze some of the kale items too. So what you would do is that in case of green leafy vegetables, rather than directly putting them in the freezer, you can steam blanch it. It's a very gentle treatment you can give. So basically what you're doing is that you're providing that steam blanching, and then you're draining all the water, and then you're going to pack it. So it's going to create a better product. So yes, you can actually freeze leafy greens. Some herbs, oh, this is a great point, and I do want to address that. You can actually freeze herbs. One of the ways I freeze herbs is actually two ways, is that I freeze them directly in a freezer safe container. What I do is that I clean them nicely with water. And then I pat dry them so that they are nice and dry. I take a freezer wrapper that I talked about. I lay them, I fold it nicely, and then I put them in the Ziploc freezer bag. So they're getting double protection there. So you can. The other way you can do it is that you can actually take an ice tray and put in your olive oil and put pieces of that herb too, and then freeze it. What you're doing is that when you're getting ready to cook something, all you have to do is take one ice cube out and then let it melt, and your herbs are already present in that. So that's also very, very convenient. Give it a try. Cheese, yes, cheese doesn't freeze well. You're right, Vivian. Eggs and cheese, yes, absolutely. Eggs, more so in eggs, you can actually do yolks, but not the white, because whites have a lot of moisture, it has a lot of water in it. So anything that has a very high amount of water in it, it's not going to do well when freezing, because guess what? You're freezing the entire product, and when you bring it out and thaw it, you'll have nothing left. So, that's definitely a good thing. Yeah. The other thing that doesn't freeze well is celery. If you've heard of that, your favorite avocados also don't do well because they brown very quickly, and they actually I actually experimented this at home, and I took the avocado, put them in the freezer container, and when I got them out, when I was thawing it, it turned to mush, and so it was not palatable in any way. So again, that kind of proved the scientific information that I was given. So avocados don't do good, celery doesn't do good, egg whites don't do good, your custards, your cream fillings, they don't do good too in the freezer. Thank you for your feedback here. Okay, now I'm making sure I don't have any other questions here. No? Okay, great. Now we are going to move to trick 6, use sweeteners. And as I said before, you can use syrup in your fruits to actually to pack your fruits, right? So you can use sugar, syrup, honey, fruit juice, fruit puree. Absolutely, you can use those to give it more better texture. What happens is that when you're adding all these sweeteners, it is layering around your fruit. And what that does is that it actually helps to create a beautiful covering around it and protects that piece of fruit or a whole fruit. Definitely helps out. When you're adding sweetener to the fruit pieces or the whole fruit, it gives good flavor. It creates a protective coating, as I said, and it creates a smaller ice crystals. If you have a coating that is protecting the fruit or a piece of fruit, it's most likely not going to create a larger crystal. On the other hand, it adds extra calories from sugar, of course. Our fruits are naturally so high in amazing natural sugars, right? I mean, do we really need to add more sugar? But however, there is time and place for it. I agree with that. Not meant for diabetic individuals. If you have a family member or if you are suffering from diabetes, you don't want to practice this because it's going to be a very high sugar content in your frozen foods. On your frozen fruit, and it alters the taste. Naturally, our fruits are so complex in taste. By adding sugar, you're changing the taste profile of it. Do we really need to change something that's so perfect? Hopefully not, right? So that is one thing. You can also add artificial sweeteners too. To your fruits. However, the problem again happens is it doesn't do anything in terms of protecting your fruit. So it's still going to create the larger crystal, if you're not, freezing it with the containers and not taking good measures to freeze the fruits. The other thing is it's going to give you off flavor. So my recommendation to you is to actually just, if you were to use unsweetened, not unsweetened, artificial sweetener, don't use it while you're freezing it. Use it afterwards when you are preparing items with it. All right. Trick 7, wrap your meat. And this is going to get awkward because I'm going to try to show you how to wrap your meat with my phone, of course. And so you basically use the freezer wraps as I showed you, for your meat, fish, and poultry. You can freeze them well. You can use a butcher or drugstore wrap. I'm going to demonstrate that right now, or try to demonstrate this right now. And then I just wanted to also make a comment on drugstore wrap. It's really very good practice if you have like a couple of burgers made, or if you have patties made, or thinner pieces of chicken or any other meat. You can definitely layer them and layer like put like a one patty in between the two patty. You're going to insert freezer wrap again to keep them separated, and then you can pull in the entire drugstore wrap around it and keep them nice and intact. Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to show you how to wrap a meat. So this is my big size chicken breast, right? And what you're going to do, you're going to try to create like a square shape of a wrap. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the chicken breast, you're going to put it near the start of the wrap, and all you're doing is you're going to fold it around in circular motion and just wrapping it around the meat. Now again, you'll be doing this on a board or on your kitchen counter, but I'm just trying to show you how to do it here. You're going to wrap it again, and now what you're going to do, you're going to leave this part as is, and these two side parting, you are going to fold it in here, one side, and this is the second side, right? You still have this up. It's not as pretty, but if you do it on the counter, it'll be very much easier. And then you're going to fold this on top. You're going to put your freezer tape, again, it is available at any grocery store, so make sure you invest in that. It's very cheap too, it's not expensive. Again, and it's going to keep your wraps nice and intact during freezing period. So you're going to do that. You're going to put your the tape on it, freezer tape on it, and you're going to use your label to write down the information of what it is, how many of the patties you have put in, and then you're going to actually put the expiration date, right? Very, very important. So this is actually your butcher wrap. Now let me show you how to do drugstore wrap. Again, you have about squarish shape of the wrap. Now you're going to go straight parallel to the line here, right? And what you're going to do, you're going to keep it in the center. You're going to place your piece of meat in the center. Again, this wrap is very good for layering your burgers and patties, right? So you can layer your meat. Again, in between each of the pieces, add a small piece of freezer wrap to keep them separated well, right? Now you're going to try to meet two ends, okay? And what you're going to do is that you're going to start creating 1/2 inch of fold like this. So you see I have kind of folded the 1/2 inch of a fold here, and you're going to keep repeating it till you're getting close to the piece of meat, right? So now it is closest to the meat, so I'm going to hold it like this. So this is how it's going to look like. Okay, and now what you're going to do, you're going to practice your wrapping technique, gift wrapping technique, and then you're going to create a little triangle here. Like that, and then it goes over the piece of meat. You're going to repeat on the same other side. Here you go, my little triangle. Not so perfect, but will do. And then again, you're going to put a freezer tape around it, and then you're going to put your label there to remind you what it is, how many patties are in it, when that product needs to be eaten before, right? So the expiration date. So these are the freezer wrapping techniques you can use. The one thing I like to do with any of my container or freezing storage method, I love to layer those. So what I mean by that is that, let's say I had my chicken breasts. I've put them individually in this freezer wrap, right? I like to add one more layer, and I like to put them either in the freezer bag or in the container. So again, they're becoming even more freezer proof, right? Okay, this is a very good question. So Erin actually mentions that, is there a difference between the two wrap techniques and how they keep your meat in the freezer? Very good. Both the techniques are going to keep your meat actually very safe, and it's going to keep your meat protected from the freezing temperature. The only difference is on the layering. So if you're using butcher wrap, you're mostly using that for individual pieces of meat. But if you're using drugstore wrap, you're going to be able to layer pieces of meat, like burger and patties. So that's the main difference. So it's about playing with the quantity more than anything else. Thank you for bringing that up, Erin. All right. I already showed you that. Okay. So, freezing technique, trick 8. Fish packing techniques. And this is something I did not know about, and I started practicing it since I learned about freezing. And learned about the scientific facts about freezing it the right way. So I have tried both of these techniques, and they work wonderfully. So what you do, the first one is a lemon gelatin glaze. So what you're doing here is use half a cup of lemon juice. I advise you to use bottle juice because usually the acidity is consistent with every time you use that. So it's just easy to use the bottle juice there. Use half a cup of lemon juice, and then use 1 and 3/4 cup of water in it, plus half a cup of gelatin. And then you're going to boil that concoction. You're going to let it cool down completely, and you're going to take your fish, you're going to immerse it in it. Now what this is doing is two things. It's going to create a very beautiful barrier around your fish. And the other thing that it does, again, it has gelatin, and just like I mentioned before, pectin and gelatin loves to hold on to water. So it makes the water unavailable for freezing, right? So that's one. And the second thing is lemon and fish always goes well together. So it's always going to enhance the flavors that is existing in the fish. So every time I have used that glaze, I feel like, in my opinion, the fish tastes much more fresher when I'm ready to thaw it and use it. So give that a try. See how that goes for you. The second one is ice glaze, the simpler one, where what you're doing is that you're going to freeze the fish, and then you're going to take ice cold water. You're going to dip the fish into the ice cold water, and then you're going to freeze it again. You're going to repeat it until you see a hard coating on the fish. And let me tell you this, you should do this with kids because this looks beautiful. Literally, it almost looks like a piece of art whenever I've done it. So it's very beautiful. Again, it's creating a beautiful barrier between your fish and your freezing temperature. So it definitely helps out a lot. The quality and the yield of product after thawing is also very good. So give that a try. Okay, Vivian is saying, so using a plastic wrap that is stretch title is not recommended. It depends, because I have seen some of the plastic wraps that are actually meant for freezing. So if it tells you on the packaging that you can use for freezing, then you can. But if it does not say that, Vivian, then I would refrain from using that. Mostly because think about this, you're using such low temperature in your freezer, and that plastic, if it is not supposed to withhold that kind of a temperature, then it can actually damage your product in general. So, and it can cause leaks and so much more, issues within your freezer. So just if you have that and if you're using that, just look at the packaging, see what it says. If it says that it can be used for freezing, you can use that. But if it doesn't, please don't use that. Good question. All right. Trick 9, safer thawing technique. And I know many of you are already practicing it, but I have to preach it again. Your sweetened fruit, first thing to know is your sweetened fruits and sugar syrup, honey, and fruit juice or puree are going to thaw much faster than the regular fruits, right? And most vegetables, if you have frozen them, they just need to easily go for cooking rather than thawing. So you can definitely use them directly for cooking. For the meat, please stick to these thawing practices. Meat is a very, very highly hazardous food, and it is so prone to have, spoilage and foodborne illnesses. So please make sure that you're practicing safer thawing techniques. So one way to thaw the meat is in the refrigerator. Takes a long time, I agree, but it's safer method. Second is microwave. You have defrost setting there. You can use the microwave if you don't have time and you need to use your meat quickly. The third one is cold water. And with this, you have to make sure if you are immersing your food item in the cold water, you have to keep checking it. If the water gets warmer, you have to replace the water and again add the cold water in it. The other thing that I like to do is combine my refrigerator and cold water technique. And so what I mean by that is that I take a container, I put cold water in it, I immerse my food product that is frozen, and then I put them in the refrigerator. It makes it slightly faster to thaw. But again, it's definitely much more faster than the refrigerator one, but nothing like a microwave. So that is the fastest one. So, try to use those techniques. Please do not thaw your food items in the sink. Sink, just like our bathrooms, is highly contaminated. We wash our dishes there. So there is plethora of bacteria growing in that area. And by exposing our meat, which is already so prone to spoilage, you are increasing the chances of foodborne illness. So I hope that you are not using that, and if you are, I hope you change that practice. And 10th, this is also very, very important, power outage, right? We have to be prepared for it because we spent a lot of time in preparing and freezing our amazing product from our local sources and our gardens, right? So we have to make sure they are protected. So the first thing you need to do while facing power outage is to set your freezer control immediately to 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very important. That's the first thing you're going to do. The second thing is try not to open the freezer door unless you really have to. Okay? So if you are going to if you're going to open it, you're exposing them to the outside temperature. And again, that may actually fluctuate the temperature within your freezer. So make sure you're not opening your freezer as much as you can. Power outage for more than 24 hours. If you have a half a freezer, just like a conventional average home has, where you have half a portion being a refrigerator, other being freezer, 50-pound half freezer will keep up to for 2 to 3 days. So you have to check your refrigerator information and see how much pound capacity it has. So look at that manual and it will tell you that. The other thing is if you have full freezer, it can last up to 3 to 4 days. So slightly longer because again, it doesn't have that refrigerator unit attached to it. So it will last for a little longer time. Use dry ice to maintain the temperature within your freezer. If it takes even longer than 2 to 3 days or 3 to 4 days. So make sure you use dry ice. Please wear gloves. And keep the windows open and keep your home well ventilated because it can cause suffocation. So make sure you do that. And also, if your area is prone to power outages or you are foreseeing that happening, already locate the places where you can find dry ice because not many of us know that. I didn't know when I moved to Maryland. I did not know where to find dry ice. So make sure you know the places where you can find the dry ice. Very, very important. Okay, so now we have concluded our session. However, I would love to get your feedback on how this presentation, this live session went. This gives me a lot of feedback on the fact that I need to know if what I'm teaching is making a difference and if it is adding value to your lives. If it is not, then I know I need to change it up. If I'm doing right and if I'm getting a good feedback, that means I need to keep doing this more. So I would truly appreciate if you can participate in this poll. What you're going to do is that you are going to open your phone, and then you open your text app. In the section where you type in your contact number, you're going to type in 22333. And in the text message where you type in your text, you're going to type in DP200. When you do that, what's going to, and you hit send, Poll Everywhere is going to give you a feedback saying you're part of a poll now, right? So that means you can actually provide your feedback. So, let's try to do that. Let's see if you can do that. So I'm going to give you a second. This is by the way, this is completely anonymous poll. Only thing I have access to from you is your response and nothing else. I don't have any access to phone numbers or anything. All right, if you have already entered the poll, this is the question I want you to answer. It's just one question. I'm not going to bombard you with more questions. And it is, I feel very confident, somewhat confident, or not at all confident in applying information shared during this Facebook live session. So when what you're going to do is, in your message box, once you get once you get notification from Poll Everywhere, you're either going to type in A, B, or C. You don't have to write very confident, somewhat, or not at all. You just have to type in A, B, or C and hit send again, and then it will record your response. That's it. All right, and this takes us to our very last page, and I want to let you know a little bit about our initiative in the area of food preservation. We, with the University of Maryland Extension, we do statewide programming in the area of food preservation. That program is called Grow It, Eat It, Preserve It. Like me, there are many excellent educators throughout Maryland who do in-person workshops, in the area of food preservation, and brings in the same information that I am doing it right now. But we just do it in person. We have a lot of interaction. We do a lot of hands-on work, and we actually create products and process it right when we are learning during this workshop. So it's very fun. It's one of my favorite programs to teach. And if you have any future question related to food preservation, I highly encourage you to reach out to my colleagues in your local area. And if you have a question, and if you want to know that, okay, Dhruti, I'm in this county, can you tell me what educator I need to reach out to? I'll be happy to provide their information. So just type it in your comment section, and I'll be happy to connect you with them. I'm also going to connect you to our website on Grow It, Eat It, and Preserve It. It's a very good website and gives you plethora of information on all different methods of preserving food. Again, show us some love. Follow us on Lower Shore Extension Facebook page and our university's UMD Extension page. We are constantly providing you a lot of information in various different program fields. May it be ag, may it be youth development, may it be nutrition, health, safety, and food preservation. You got us. So, make sure you follow us, like us, and follow us there, so we can, communicate more. We can know you a little bit more. And so, again, if you think that this information might be useful to your friends and your people on your Facebook, please share the link, tag your friends. We would love to see you do that, and spread the word. These are some of the techniques that all of us can benefit from. So, and freezing is something every one of us do, right? So feel free to share this information, tag this information, okay? I wish you all very, very wonderful day, and please stay safe and stay healthy and be positive and productive during this crisis, because that's all we can do, right? We cannot control the circumstances, but we can always control our approach towards it. So I wish you all well. Please take care, and I hope I see you tomorrow uh, for drawing session at 10:30. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.